Hello everybody, this is Frodo from Keep It Simple, and today we are going to work through a question from Edexcel Mock Set 3, Paper 1. So this was question 12. The region R shown shaded in the diagram is the region between two circles with the same center. The outer circle has a radius of 2n plus 1. Okay, that's that 2n plus 1 there. The inner circle has radius of n minus 1. So this is the inner circle and that's its radius. All measurements are in centimeters. The area of R is greater than the area of a circle of radius n plus 13. Where's R? Okay, R is here and R represents this shaded part here. N is an integer. Find the least possible value of n. You must show all your working out. Now we're going to start by underlining the keywords in the question. So this is important. The radius of the outer circle. The inner circle has a radius of n minus 1. We better underline that. All measurements are in centimeters. That's great. Area of R is greater than the area of a circle of radius n plus 13. Okay, that's pretty important. N is an integer. That's also important. So an integer is a positive or negative whole number. So our value of n is going to be a whole number. Find the least possible value of n. Okay, so that means we've got to find the smallest possible value of n. You must show all your working out. All right, let's do this. I think the first thing we need to do is try and get our head around what the question is actually asking us to do. So it says on this line here, the area of R, so this is the shady part here, is greater than the area of a circle of radius n plus 13. So area of R. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to write this down mathematically. So we have area of R is greater than, so we have an inequality sign, the area of a circle. Okay, I know and you know that the area of a circle can be found by using the formula pi times r squared. Pi r squared. So the area of R, this shaded part here, is greater than the area of a circle. So that's going to be pi times r squared. But they tell you that its radius is n plus 13. So we're going to do some substitution. So this radius is going to be this radius here. So let's just write a of r for short is greater than pi times r squared. Now r is equal to n plus 13. Okay, so we now need to work out the area of R. So R is this shaded part here, and I think the way I'm going to work it out is by finding the area of the large circle, so this line here, so the largest circle with a radius of 2n plus 1, and then I'm going to find the area of this white circle here. And once I found these two areas, if I subtract them, it will give me the area of R. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's work out the area of the largest circle. So it's going to be pi times r squared. In this case, it's going to be 2n plus 6 squared. Subtract the area of this white circle here, and its radius is n minus 1. So it's going to be subtract pi times n minus 1 squared. And all of that is going to be greater than pi times n plus 13 squared. Now we have to solve this inequality, and we solve inequalities in the same way that we solve equations. The one key thing that you need to remember is the inequality sign reverses when you multiply or divide by a negative number. So that's the only time that an inequality sign reverses, and that's your knowledge. That's what you should know before you attempt this question. Now what we can do, we can divide both sides by pi, because we're going to solve it like an equation, so the pi's cancel out. So we're just going to be left with 2n plus 6 squared minus n minus 1 squared is greater than n plus 13 squared. So we're going to get double brackets. So you're going to get 2n plus 6 in one bracket, and then 2n plus 6 in another bracket. Subtract n minus 1, greater than n plus 13, n plus 13. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to expand the double brackets. I'll use a different color pen for the expansion. So you're going to do 2n times 2n, you're going to do 2n plus 6, we're going to do 6 times 2n, you're going to do 6 times 6, and then we're going to do n times minus 1, minus 1 times n, minus 1 times minus 1, n times 13, 13 times n, 13 times 13, and then we're going to collect the like terms. So 2n times 2n is going to give us 4n squared, 2n times 6 is going to give us plus 12n, 6 times 2n is plus 12n, and 6 times 6 is 36. Now subtract. This is important because we're going to subtract. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep this in brackets. Remember, this is a subtract sign. So n times n is n squared. N times minus 1 is minus n. Minus 1 times n is minus n. Minus 1 times minus 1 is plus 1. So watch out when you're multiplying. Try not to make any mistakes with your negative. This one's going to be, oh, I don't need that bracket there. So n times n is going to be n squared. N times 13 is 13n. 13 times n is 13n. And 13 times 13 is 169. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to sort this bracket out here. Now, let me collect the like terms first, and then I'll show you a method that you can use to sort this subtraction out. So the 12n plus 12n will give us 24n. So we're going to get 4n squared plus 24n plus 36, subtract. Now keep this one in brackets. N squared minus n will give us minus 2n if you collect the like terms, plus 1 is greater than n squared. 13n plus 13n will give us 26n plus 169. Now there's an invisible minus 1 here. So one of the ways you can do this calculation here is you can draw your clause and we can multiply everything by minus 1. That way we won't make a mistake with our signs. So minus 1 times n squared, minus 1 times minus 2n, and minus 1 times plus 1. Because this is a place where pupils make a mistake with their signs. And if you make a mistake with the signs, you're going to get the wrong answer. So we're going to have 4n squared plus 24n plus 36 minus n squared plus 2n minus 1, and that's all going to be greater than n squared plus 26n plus 169. So I'm going to collect the like term once again. So I have 4n squared, subtract n squared minus n squared, so that's going to give us 3n squared. I have 24n plus 2n, which is going to give us 26n. And I have 36 take away 1, which will give us 35. And that's going to be greater than n squared plus 26n plus 169. Now we're going to solve this. So I'm going to subtract n squared from both sides. And if I subtract minus 26n from both sides, this minus 26 with this minus 26, they'll cancel out. So we're just going to be left with some 3n squared take away n squared is going to give us 2n squared plus 35 is greater than 169. Now I am going to subtract 35 from both sides. So I'm going to have 2n squared is greater than, so we've got to do 169 take away 35. So 169 take away 30 is 139. 139 take away 5 will give us 134. I'm going to now divide both sides by 2, so I'm going to have n squared is greater than. So we're just going to half 134. So a half of 130 is 65. So a half of 134 must be 67. And I'm now going to find the square root. The opposite of squaring is square root. So n is greater than the square root of 67. Now if we go back here, n has to be an integer. So that means that n has to be a whole number. And we need to find the smallest possible whole number that n can be. So if we find the square root of, let's say, 64, the square root of 64, and I'll just do that here. So the square root of 64 will give us an answer of 8. What's the next biggest square number? So 8 times 8 is 64, 9 times 9 is 81. So if we find the square root of 81, that's going to give us an answer of 9. So the square root of 67 we can estimate is going to be maybe 8.2, and we want the smallest possible integer that n can be. So that means n has to be 9. So n is going to be equal to 9. I hope this video was useful and you learned something. Please hit like and subscribe. This is Frodo from Keep It Simple, signing out.